Hi, this is Terri. Welcome back to my channel. Today's topic, and don't run away, it really is not as boring as it sounds, is around the power of language. And I have my friend Candice to thank for the idea for this, but it was kind of brewing around, and a topic that we talked about this afternoon got me thinking about, as she was thinking about, how language is so important, especially right now since so many of us are doing Zoom and Team and Google Meets and all of these different video conferences and video conference calls, and we're on audio and we're not in person as much, and so it really comes down to us being very aware of the words, or hopefully we're being very aware and intentional about the words that we're using. We are also in a political climate, and I guess we'll call it a political climate where words have a lot of meaning, and there's a lot of connotations and perceptions and all sorts of stuff around words that is creating a great deal of sensitivity on various different topics. The media is creating bigger deals out of things because of the words that are used, and in some cases minimizing things because of the words that are used. For example, are you following me at all right now?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, at least Ray's following me. So for example, right now, this week has been really tough with another Black man being shot by police officers, basically being killed by police officers. It isn't just a matter of the video is just so incredibly obvious about what it is that happened, but a lot of people are seeing things very differently based on the way that the media is reporting and the words that are used. I ended up blocking somebody on Facebook because they were upset about the fact that the National Hockey League isn't playing tonight because of, he called it because of a thug. And so he's like, I'm boycotting the NHL as a result. And it's like, we have a tendency, or the media has a tendency, to label Black men as thugs when they seem to be doing something wrong, but they don't label white men as thugs. And white men tend to get away with a lot more as a result, and our media contributes to this problem. Another example is they may have a headline that says sex with an underage girl. Well, that's rape. Can we just use the word rape? But it may seem inflammatory to use that word, even though that is the actual word that should be used. Legally, that is the word. But there are often times where the media and others who want to spin things use different words in order to escalate the issue or de-escalate the issue, either maximize it or minimize it. Another place where, and this is where I was talking about things with Candice, is around language and vernacular being barriers to access to entry. If you, for example, in the angel investing that I do, there's a lot of terminology around it, and very quickly you can see if somebody has experience or not in the space based on the words that are used. And she used the term, it came up today in something, and I hope she's okay with me sharing it, around the term deal room. And for me as an investor, it's like, oh yeah, when a company is interested in raising funds, they open up a deal room electronically, and that deal room will capture all of the documentation and data to support an investor doing due diligence on a potential investment. And there are different ways to structure it, but it's like, oh yeah, of course there's a deal room. Well, it was the first time she and her partner had heard the term, and it got us talking about how easy it is to see whether somebody belongs in the club based on their familiarity with the language, their familiarity with the vernacular that can be very specific to a specific industry.
It's called jargon.
It's jargon. I mean, in the consulting work that I do, I use a lot of acronyms, and I will use a term like computer validation, which has a specific meaning to me in an FDA regulated space with computer systems. Well, computer validation to somebody else who's maybe just in tech, is going to have a completely different meaning than it is to me. Or when I see there's a regulation that I have to adhere to called 21 CFR Part 11. And I can tell very quickly when I'm talking to a vendor or talking to somebody else in how they refer to 21 CFR Part 11, because we will shorten it and say Part 11, but some people will say the CFR 2111, and I'm like, you have no idea what you're talking about. So it becomes very easy to see if somebody is in the know and in the club or not. In the investing, because it's a very steep learning curve, and there's a lot to learn as a founder if you're raising money, or even as an investor if you're new to investing. There's a lot of terminology that can make you look like a newbie to folks, and it can actually prevent founders from being able to raise capital if they are not familiar with the terminology. They may not have been educated, they may not have had it modeled around them, and therefore they may not have access to capital from investors who only pay attention to those who are in the know. Now, fortunately, I'm starting to see more programs and more people sharing and willing to educate those who are not necessarily brought up with this, but there are still others who will exclude people from the quote-unquote club and see them as less if they don't know the terminology. And this is where I think having some sensitivity and awareness around this and not being so judgmental around it and giving people the benefit of the doubt, saying, well, maybe they don't know this, but this doesn't mean they're a complete idiot. It doesn't mean they're a complete nincompoop, and maybe this is an opportunity to provide some guidance or some education to help get them to a place so that they can, get access to what it is that they need and they want. Another place that it showed up today was I saw an article on FemTech. And FemTech is a term that Ida Clue, who was the CEO of, Ida Tin, who was the CEO of Clue, which is a period tracker. It might do some more stuff now with fertility. I don't know. I haven't been paying attention to it. But anyway, she coined the term about 4 years ago. Up until then, there was really no term for women's health technology. Now, there's something inherently wrong with the term FemTech because it implies that all of the stuff related to women's health that's in this bucket is all technology based. But that's not true because we have Thinx underwear, which is period underwear. We have things that are non-technology related that are in the women's health bucket that actually fall under FemTech because it's a really, really broad, it's a broad thing. But when we talk about women's health, we get into some gendered related things that then it ends up potentially excluding people who would be who should be caught up in the health because of the way that their bodies are designed and structured.
That's why I think it's okay that it's FemTech rather than what you're calling women's health, because not all of us are women, whereas Femme refers to female, which is our physical bodies.
Yes, and this is where there's going to have to be an evolution on this, and it goes to things that are very gendered around this, but getting people to pay attention to women's health as a whole has been hard enough. To get them to label things as female health. I mean, we've had conversations around all the language around gender and sex and all of it that's very, very new, and I still screw it up. And there are a lot of people who aren't necessarily as intentional about learning, who maybe not even be aware or have some other sensitivities around that. So first of all, we need to recognize that female bodies are not the same as male bodies. And that then the next thing is to recognize that not all women have female bodies, and that female bodies being different from male bodies, we should have different health, technology, resources, innovation, attention, all of that. And
I feel bad for all the intersex people out there who are just kind of in the middle.
Well, so you bring up something else. It's like we're not even paying attention. Which bucket do they fit into?
They don't.
They don't. And yet I have no idea what sort of innovation is even happening or how much attention is being paid to it. But it's messy is all I'm going to say. Hopefully we are going to be making some progress. But it talks about the power of language, because if you say women's health, there are some people who can be like, I identify as a woman, but I don't have any female reproductive organs. So where does that put me? Am I included or am I excluded? And that's tricky, which is why we need to be sensitive to these things and hopefully evolve over time. Wouldn't you? I mean, I know you probably want it all now, but if you think about
I understand that this is a process. I'm not an idiot.
I didn't call you an idiot.
You implied it.
I did not imply that you were an idiot. I did not imply at all. The implication was that I know that you want it now, and you're disappointed that we're not there. Because
I want it now, but I am rational enough to recognize that it's not going to happen now, so I'm not going to get my knickers in a twist about it, and instead just...
Well, you'll continue to push for change.
Yeah, of course.
Well, you have certain tolerance for other people when you don't have tolerance for me when I use the wrong language. You really get on my case about stuff. It's, you know what, it's okay. You push me, and I grow and I learn and I pay attention. And then I become an advocate and an evangelist, and then I try to push others to expand as well. So thank you for educating me and continuing to support me in my education.
Yep.
I've been listening in. I joined this thing called Clubhouse. One day I will explain it. And I've been listening in a lot of conversations with people from other parts of the world, people who are not like me, who are using language that is not stuff that I'm either familiar with or I've heard before. And I love it. I'm just absorbing it and trying to learn as much as possible, and just to try to figure out just like where does that fit into what I know and what I don't know. And it got me thinking about how as a woman in a predominantly male environment, how I've had to adopt certain language, speak a certain way, avoid saying certain things. And I know that others have had to try to adapt as well. I've been listening to a lot of different things with Black women in particular who we have to constantly code switch and change the way that we speak in order to fit into a white person's world. And I'm just paying a lot more attention to that, realizing the amount of effort that I have to put into trying to fit into a man's world, and how that must be just 100 times harder for others who are not white, who do not have the privilege of my skin color, which, that's a whole separate other topic. So the bottom line to bring it all around is, there's so much power in language, and being aware when we see things in the media or when we are around people who may not be as aware or know as much, and not being not judging as much, having greater sensitivity, willingness to work together, and not use language to inflame situations, but find ways to potentially diffuse situations and find common language or common ground around that. So I know it's a little bit of a heavy topic for a Saturday morning. I hope that you got something out of it and are being a little bit thoughtful, and maybe you will be a little more thoughtful about the words that you use and then the words that you read and that you hear as well. So with that, unless you've got something to add.
Other than the fact that this video is much longer than you anticipated it being.
Always.
Which really shouldn't be a surprise at this point. It's more just, come on, let's wrap things up here. Chop,
okay, so thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. We're trying to get up to 200. I was hoping by the end of August, but maybe we'll look at the end of September. And with that, as always, let go of perfection, take some risks, and above all else, have some fun.